Once upon a time, a mother was in such despair. Her son had always been a tender and loving child, but he had become angry and unpredictable. Only in rare moments did she catch a glimpse of the child she used to know. Now, when people in her village had a sickness, they would go for a cure to a hermit that lived deep in the mountains. But this woman always prided herself that she could heal her own troubles. This time was different. She was desperate. And so she set off to visit the hermit. As she approached the hermit's hut, she saw the door was open, and she stood there. The man said without turning around, "I can hear you. What's your problem?" She explained the situation. With his back still to her, he said, "Oh yes, that's often the way. What do you expect me to do about it?" "Make me a potion, whatever it takes to get my son back to the way he used to be." The hermit replied, "It will take 3 days before I can look into it. I'm very busy. Come back then." 3 days later, she returned to the hermit's hut. "Oh, I have good news for you," he said. "There is a potion that will restore your son to the way he used to be. But you should know that it requires an unusual ingredient. You must bring me a whisker from a living tiger." "What?" she gasped. "That's impossible." The hermit replied, "I can't make a potion without it. There's nothing more to say. As you can see, I'm very busy." That night she tossed and turned. How could she get a whisker from a living tiger? The next day before dawn, she crept out of the house with a bowl of rice covered with meat sauce. And she climbed high up into the mountains, where there was a cave known to be the home of a tiger. She crept up with her heart pounding, carefully set the bowl on the grass near the cave's entrance, and then, trying to make as little noise as possible, she backed away. The next day before dawn, she took another bowl of rice covered with meat sauce to the cave. She approached the same spot, and she saw that yesterday's bowl was empty and replaced it with the fresh one. She stepped away, trying not to break twigs or rustle leaves that may startle the wild beast. So it went on, day after day for several months. She never saw the tiger, thank goodness, she thought, though she knew from the footprints on the ground that the tiger, and not some smaller mountain creature, had been eating her food. Then one day as she approached, she froze as she saw the tiger's head poking out of its cave. Glancing downwards, she stepped very carefully to the same spot, set down the fresh bowl, and with her heart pounding, picked up the one that was empty and backed away. After a few weeks, the tiger would come out of its cave as it heard her footsteps, though it stayed some distance away. Again, thank goodness, she thought, though she knew that someday, in order to get the whisker, she would have to come closer to it. Another month went by. Soon the tiger was waiting beside the empty bowl as it heard her approaching. And as she picked up the old bowl and replaced it with a fresh one, she could smell its scent, as it could surely smell hers. Suddenly she thought, he almost looks like a big kitten. The next time she visited, she noticed what lovely reddish fur it had from one of its eyebrows to the next. And a week later, the tiger allowed her to reach out and gently stroke its head, and it made a soft purr and stretched almost like a house cat. The next morning, very early, she brought with her a pair of scissors, for she knew that the time had come. After she set down the fresh bowl, the tiger again allowed her to pet its head. She said in a low voice, "Oh, my tiger, may I please just have one of your whiskers?" And while stroking the tiger, she held one whisker at its base, and with her other hand, in one quick stroke, she snipped the whisker off. She stood up, speaking softly her thanks, and left for the last time. The next day she ran to the hermit's hut, clutching the precious whisker. Bursting in, she cried, "I have it! I have the tiger's whisker!" "You don't say," he said, turning around. "From a living tiger?" "Yes," she said. "Tell me how you did it," said the hermit. Well, the woman told how for the last 6 months she had earned the trust of the creature, and it had finally permitted her to cut off one of its whiskers. With pride she handed him the whisker. The hermit examined it, satisfied himself it was indeed a whisker from a living tiger, and then he simply flicked it into the fire, where it sizzled and burned in an instant. "What have you done?" she cried, horrified. The hermit said softly, "You no longer need the whisker. If a dangerous beast will respond to your gradual and patient care, do you think your son will respond any less willingly?" The woman was speechless. Then she walked away, stepping slowly down the mountain trail, turning over in her mind the images of the tiger and her son. The tiger and her son, back and forth. She knew what she could do.